I was the outcast no one wanted at the table, until the inheritance turned me into the only relative that mattered. For 23 years, I'd been the family disappointment. While my cousins Bridget and Devin got law degrees and medical residencies, I dropped out of college to care for dying patients as a hospice aide. Family dinners meant sitting at the kids' table, listening to my Aunt Pamela brag about Bridget's partnership track, and Uncle Harrison boast about Devin's surgical rotations. "And what are you doing these days, Zara?" they'd ask with fake smiles, already turning away before I could answer. The truth was, I was barely surviving. My job paid minimum wage, and I lived in a studio apartment with a leaky ceiling. But I loved my work, holding hands with people in their final moments, helping families say goodbye. It mattered to me, even if it didn't matter to them. Then, Grandma Evelyn died. She'd been wealthy, really wealthy, but lived simply in her old Victorian house. The family assumed her fortune would be divided equally among her children. Dad, Aunt Pamela, and Uncle Harrison had already started discussing how to split the investments. The will reading was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon. I almost didn't go, expecting another humiliating reminder of my place in the family hierarchy, but something made me show up to the lawyer's mahogany-paneled office. Attorney Morrison cleared his throat and began reading. "To my granddaughter Zara, who understood that money means nothing if you don't use it to help others, I leave my entire estate, valued at approximately $4.2 million. The silence was deafening. Aunt Pamela's face went white. Uncle Harrison started sputtering about mistakes and mental capacity. Dad just stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "There must be an error," Bridget said, her voice shaking. Attorney Morrison continued. "Mrs. Chen was very specific. She watched Zara choose compassion over profit, service over status. The house, investments, and trust fund go entirely to Zara." I sat frozen as the family erupted around me. 20 years of being invisible, and suddenly I was the center of everything. The aftermath was swift and ugly. Phone calls demanding I do the right thing and share the money. Threats about contesting the will. Bridget even showed up at my apartment, sobbing about her student loans. "This isn't fair," she cried. "I worked so hard." "So did I said quietly, "just not in ways you could see." I kept working at the hospice, but now I could fund a new wing. I bought the Victorian house and turned it into a respite center for caregivers. When Aunt Pamela called, desperate because Harrison had gambled away his savings, I listened politely and hung up. Last Christmas, I hosted dinner in Grandma's dining room. The house was full of my hospice colleagues, patients' families, and a few neighbors who'd become friends. Real people who valued kindness over status. The doorbell rang during dessert. Through the window, I saw my biological family huddled on the porch, holding store-bought pie. I opened the door. "We thought we could join you," Dad said hopefully. "It's Christmas after all." I looked at their faces, the same people who'd spent decades making me feel worthless, now hoping for scraps of attention from the relative who mattered. "The table's full," I said simply. "Maybe next year." As I closed the door, I heard Grandma's voice in my memory. "The right people will always find their way to your table, dear." She was right.